Download this code from codegive.com, link in the description below. Certainly. The error message "connection to Python debugger failed, socket closed" typically indicates that there's an issue with the communication between the integrated development environment, IDE, or editor and the Python debugger, which is often caused by network issues, firewall settings, or configuration problems. Understanding the error. When you run a Python program in debug mode, the IDE or debugger client typically creates a socket connection to the Python process running the program. If this connection fails, you might see the socket closed error message. Here are some common causes. 1. Firewall or security software. Firewalls or antivirus programs may block the socket connection. 2. Incorrect debugger configuration. The debugger settings in your IDE might be misconfigured. 3. Network issues. If you're running the debugger over a network, there might be connectivity issues. 4. Python version compatibility. Sometimes, specific versions of Python or the debugger may have compatibility issues. 5. IDE bugs. Bugs in the IDE or editor can sometimes lead to this error. Steps to troubleshoot and fix the issue. 1. Check firewall settings. Make sure that your firewall or antivirus is not blocking connections on the port used by the debugger. You may need to add an exception for your IDE. 2. Verify debugger configuration. Ensure that the debugger is properly configured in your IDE. Check the settings for ports and paths. 3. Update IDE and Python. Make sure you are using the latest version of your IDE and Python. Sometimes, updating resolves compatibility issues. 4. Run the IDE as administrator. On Windows, try running the IDE as an administrator to see if it resolves any permission-related issues. 5. Test with a simple script. Create a simple Python script to test your debugger. For example, try to run this in debug mode to see if the issue persists. 6. Check for IDE-specific settings. Each IDE has its own settings for debugging. Check the official documentation for your IDE to ensure you have the right setup. Code example to test debugger. Here's a simple example to debug a Python script. You can use this in your IDE to see if the debugger connects successfully. Debugging steps. 1. Set a breakpoint at the print number line. 2. Start the debugger in your IDE. 3. Observe if the IDE connects to the debugger successfully without the socket closed error. Conclusion. The connection to Python debugger failed, socket closed error can be frustrating, but by following the troubleshooting steps outlined above, you should be able to resolve the issue effectively. If problems persist after checking all these points, consider seeking help from the community forums specific to your IDE or debugger for further assistance.